Hello everyone, I welcome you all to my channel Revealing Concepts. In today's class, we would be studying a concept from geography which is of earthquake. Now this is again related to interior of the earth because earthquake is an activity that originates from the interior of the earth. So you can actually watch this in continuation with the previous video that has been uploaded related to the interior of the earth. Now here, the phenomena of earthquake is also known as seismicity, and it takes place in the interior or inside of the earth. Now, this is a three-dimensional picture of a piece of land, we can say, where this is the surface and this is the interior of the earth. Now, the point at which the earthquake starts or the origin of the earthquake is called as the focus. So focus in this case is the point where the earthquake originates, or the beginning of the earthquake is at the point named as focus, and the point which is exactly perpendicular to this point on the surface of the earth. So the point which is perpendicular to the focus lying on the surface of the earth, jahan pe the shock waves or the earthquake waves reach first, that point is called as epicenter. So epicenter is that point which is perpendicularly located and it is very close or the most close point to the point of focus. So focus pe your earthquake starts, that is the origin of your earthquake, and earthquake waves jahan pe surface pe jaake first reach hote hai, that particular point is called as the epicenter. So these are the two common terms which are used in case of understanding the concept of earthquake. Now, what exactly is earthquake? So, earthquake is basically the magma movement that takes place, magma ka movement that takes place in the asthenosphere. Now, we all remember asthenosphere. Asthenosphere is basically a semi-solid layer that exists in the interior of the earth, and वो semi-solid इसलिए होता है because there is magma present in the asthenosphere. Now, when there is magma movement, when the magma moves, at that time there is shaking of earth that happens. So when the interior of the earth में जो magma है, which is in the asthenosphere, that actually moves, that causes a shaking phenomena on the interior of the earth or on the surface layer of the earth, because of which we can say that there is earthquake that takes place. Now, why exactly does this shaking takes place? So whenever there is huge amount of pressure that's been created, that is why there is a lot amount of that is why there is lot of upheavalness that has been created. The magma moves in a very abrupt manner, because of which there is the shock waves have been generated because of this movement, and hence the surface level feels the shock, and that is how the earthquake originates. Now there are different types of earthquakes depending upon how it takes place, what are the various phenomena. We have classified them. For example, we have the tectonic earthquake. The tectonic earthquake is basically the earthquake that takes place due to the sliding of rocks. So whenever there is huge amount of sliding of rocks, the tectonic earthquake takes place. You can actually map it with the tectonic shifts that takes place. Now we all know that earth was at the beginning earth was a huge piece of land, and then due to the tectonic shifts, due to the separation of different tectonic plates, the earth got scattered into different continents, we can say. So the sliding of rocks basically leads to tectonic earthquakes. Similarly, we have the second type of earthquake, which is called as the volcanic earthquake. Now the term volcanic earthquake itself explains that this is the earthquake that is induced by the eruption of volcano. Similarly, we have the third one, which is the collapse earthquake. Now, what do we mean by collapse earthquake? So this is actually a human-induced earthquake. We all know that mines, जहाँ से minerals are being extracted, such mines are mainly underground mines. So those mines are been dug. Of course, they have roofs, and the roofs over them are made up of soil and rocks only. So when huge amount of pressure is exerted in order to extract minerals, so again shock waves are generated, because of which the roof of the mine gets collapsed. और वो roof जो है, of course, that also forms the surface of the earth. तो उसकी वजह से जो earthquake induce होता है, that is called as the collapse earthquake, because in this case the roof of the mines collapse, and that phenomena is called as collapse earthquake. Similarly, the fourth type of earthquake is the explosion earthquake. Again, the name itself suggests, or the name itself explains the phenomena कि कोई तो explosion की वजह से this earthquake is induced. Again, it's a human induced earthquake, because whenever there are chemical or nuclear explosions, again earth receives a huge amount of shock in the form of explosions, because of which there is earthquake that takes place, and hence this is called as an explosion earthquake. Similarly, the last one is the reservoir induced earthquake. Now what happens is, whenever water is stored, we all know what is a reservoir. Reservoir is basically a huge storage unit, like a dam, equivalent to a dam, wherein huge amount of rainwater is being stored for future use. Now sometimes what happens is, whenever the capacity of the reservoir is being exceeded, a huge amount of water is being stored, and due to the constant movement of water, there is pressure that's been exerted on the walls of this reservoir, because of which there are chances of a reservoir induced earthquake. So these are the 5 different types of earthquakes, starting from the tectonic earthquake, which corresponds to sliding of rocks; volcanic earthquake, which takes place due to volcanic eruptions; collapse earthquakes, as the name suggests, it takes place due to the collapse of the mine roofs; explosion earthquakes, which takes place due to the explosion that has been caused by the chemical and nuclear explosions; and reservoir induced earthquake, that takes place because of the pressure that's been exerted by the water on the reservoir walls. Now, these are the different types of earthquakes. We understood what exactly is earthquake. Now, what are the effects of earthquake? So the most common and the obvious effect of earthquake is ground shaking. So that is one indicator that it's an earthquake. So ground shaking is the first effect. Again, due to constant ground shaking, there can be land and mudslides, and these land and mudslides are mainly observed in the hilly regions. So mudslides, landslides are some phenomena which are actually very destructive in nature, and they are caused by earthquakes due to the constant shaking of earth for some time. Similarly, there is soil liquefaction that takes place. Now what exactly is soil liquefaction? As the name suggests, liquefaction, the soil actually appears to take the form of a liquid. So the soil moves in a wavy form, and that actually also causes a lot of destruction. So just like the waves of seas, they engulf human beings under it if you are near the waves. Similarly, whenever earthquake takes place, there is soil liquefaction. The soil is moved, and it is moving in the form of waves, and it tries to engulf people and things that are around and under it. Similarly, there are avalanches that occur. We all know what is avalanches. The sudden shaking of earth actually causes the snow that is there on the top of the mountain to slide, which is avalanche. Then floods is also again one of the most common effect of earthquake. And structural collapses. Structural collapses means collapses of the buildings, houses, etc. So earthquakes actually causes a lot of nature destruction as well as the human destruction also. Now, how we are supposed to measure earthquake? So in order to measure the earthquake, basically we actually get a graph of it, which is also called a seismograph. So एक seismograph आता है, a graphical representation of an earthquake, and depending upon the readings of that graph, we understand the इंटेंसिटी एंड द मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ द अर्थक्वेक. तो वो ग्राफ जो होता है उसके ऊपर 2 स्केल्स प्लॉट किए जाते हैं. द फर्स्ट स्केल इज देयर इज द रिक्टर स्केल एंड द सेकंड वन इज द Mercalli scale. So we all know that in a normal graph also we have like 2 axes, we have scales that have been defined for that particular graph. So similarly, the concept of earthquake, how big the earthquake is, if you want to measure the earthquake, उसके लिए first a graph has been drawn, which is called as a seismograph. So just for your understanding, I have drawn a sample figure. The seismograph might not look like this. Okay, so you have a seismograph, and in order to measure the attributes, or in order to measure the parameters that have been mentioned in the seismograph, there are two scales. So we have the Richter scale, as I told you, and the Mercalli scale. The Richter scale is used to measure the magnitude of the earthquake, and the Mercalli scale is used to measure its intensity, how intense the earthquake was, and magnitude is how far the effect of the earthquake has reached. So in today's class, we started with knowing the definition of earthquake. Basically, what is earthquake? We saw two important points relating to earthquake, which is focus and epicenter. We saw exactly earthquake hota kya hai. There are these several types of earthquakes, that is 5 types of earthquakes, depending upon the reason of its cause. Then the reason why it is actually happening. Then we saw the effects of earthquake. Ye sare effects hai. And finally we saw कि earthquake हो गया, खत्म हो गया, effects and everything. Now how are you actually going to measure it? So simply it is measured with the help of a seismograph using these two scales. So with this we come to the end of today's class. I hope you all have understood what has been explained in today's class. If you have any doubt, if there is any confusion, you can just post your doubt in the comment section and reach out to me. I'll surely reply back to you. Thank you so much, and see you soon in the next video.